All right, YouTube, we're back in the shop today. I got something I got to fix on my racer. We were in Sun River last weekend. We did pretty good. We got first in tough truck and second in what they call the slime race up there. It's kind of side by side through the mud around a tire and then back through. So we did pretty good. I do got to fix something on this. It happened a year ago in Drummond. What I did, let's see if I can get some light on this. Whoops. So I added these 2-inch spacers above my springs just so I had a little more up travel, because every jump I was hitting I was bottoming out. Actually, I don't know if you can see this real well, but this bump stop is connected to this piece of tube here, and then the coils sit around that piece of tube. The one on the driver's side, this actually collapsed on me, so I had to replace it last year. But when I put these spacers in, what it does is, since you have a panhard bar that comes from, let's see, it comes from your frame over there across to this side. This thing attaches right here. Let's see if I can get this set up where you guys can see it. So it attaches to this bolt. I actually made this bracket. They wanted like 30 bucks for it. I had the material laying around, so I built it. But as you can see, I drilled this hole right here. What that does is it centers the axle from side to side. The problem with it is when you don't lower your bump stops right here to accommodate for this 2 inches of lift, I wanted as much up travel as I could get just to try to deal with soaking up some of these jumps. The problem that it did was it pushed the whole axle that way to the passenger side. Let me climb up under here and show you what it did. I've made new front suspension links for this Jeep, because first time I ran it, I rolled it because the front links collapsed. So they're not strong enough. But as you can see, hopefully, these are my new upper links right here. They're quarter wall DOM. Then this is all 3/16 plate on the upper. The problem with it was when I drilled that hole and centered the axle, it allowed that link. Hopefully you guys will be able to see this. Sorry, I'm trying to run my light and the camera. It's pretty hard to see. Let me try a different angle here. I don't know if you guys can see this, but right here, this upper link right here got into my unibody. It just started peeling back the unibody. I kind of left it alone for a little while. I re-drilled that hole to push the axle back the other direction. And now it's clear, and in Sun River it didn't hit either side. But I do got to deal with this frame, because I noticed even after Sun River, this is starting to kind of move this horn. It's allowing this to twist. So I noticed, I don't know, wow, sorry about that. I'm trying to run too much stuff at once. So this is my engine cage. It runs down, it supports this bar comes down, supports the top of my coil. Well, I started noticing the gap under this bar is starting to get a little big, because really from the front bumper to the dash bar up here, there's nothing really holding it that way. Those bars that go down to the top of the coil mount, those are just to support that coil when it compresses, and the bump stop. So as you can tell, this is hitting, and it's wants to push this bar up every single time, because I don't have anything really tying this down to the frame. I've been looking at maybe running some bars from this corner back up to here, from my rocker guard up, to hold that weight down so it quits pushing this bar up. But like I said, when you close the hood, I started noticing that it's hitting on this side. This used to, I wouldn't say it was perfect, because I've rolled this a couple times, but it's hitting pretty good, and it used to be pretty centered in there. So I knew this bar was kind of starting to move from all that compression. And what it's doing is that unibody, where that frame is kind of cracked or peeled back a little bit, it's turning that horn like this, pretty much from the firewall up, or well, where that brake is forward, it's starting to twist that unibody. So I got to figure out some way to plate that to get some stability back. Looking for my plate that I made. Well, I'll show you that when I find it, but I am going to plate the frame this way, and then under the bottom I'm going to run another piece this way to try to get some of that rigidity back to that unibody. Yeah, it was a mistake on my part when I did it. Like I said, I was trying to save my back from all these jumps that we do and bottoming out, so that's what I'm going to be working on. I got there, you can see the hole that was in there. I actually cut back some of that sheet metal. I'm going to plate it with a piece of 10 gauge that I have. It's thicker than the unibody, so it should give some more rigidity. I've actually overlapped it by about, I think about an inch all the way around, for the most part. And then that bottom plate will tie into that side plate. So we'll see how it goes. All right, so this is kind of my plate. Let me get down off this trailer. I haven't unloaded my tough truck from the trailer yet, so that's kind of my plate. As you can see, this is the bottom of the frame. I'm gonna actually roll a piece on my metal roll that ties into it going that way. So when you look at it, this will be like the side of the frame, and then I'll have a plate down along the bottom here. This other side, I had to bend it just a little bit because of the shape of the unibody. That should tie right into the frame rail real nicely. Fits in there really well. But that overhangs about inch, maybe 3/4 of an inch, depending on what side you're kind of looking at. Then this lower section here, essentially I'm going to put a plate this way that runs down this. I'm going to roll it on my metal roll, and that'll go down the bottom of the frame rail. Try to keep that frame from, not really frame, unibody, from twisting like that, because that's what it's doing right at that hole. It's starting to kind of tweak just a little bit. So just trying to keep it together pretty much. I mean, it's a unibody. They're not really designed for this. They kind of have a tendency to fall apart if you don't have them well reinforced. So that's what I'm going to try to do. It's kind of similar to this. You can see it when I rolled it once, I smashed a crud out of the rocker guard, so I had to cut them out, put some square tube in there. But under here you can kind of see what I did to the unibody. This is all like 3 by, I think it's 3.5 by 3.5 angle. And it starts here and pretty much goes all the way down the frame to there. These are really weak in between the doors. So once you kind of get that in there, it gets some structure. A lot of people say it might not be enough. This is 3/16. My other Jeep has 1/4 inch, and it's way overkill. You can definitely tell that these Jeeps, when you start flexing them without that frame in there, this angle iron in there, the doors won't shut. When you go to actually shut the doors, they kind of hit on this latch right there. When you shut the whole body is tweaked, so the doors won't shut real well. Once you do this, tie this angle iron into this frame, they get way stouter. I know there's a lot of companies out there that make frame stiffeners for XJs, and I think they make them for these ZJs. They have them for here and then up over the front horns. I built all these. Metal at the time was super cheap. And then as you can see, all my roll cage is tied into it. So my roll cage comes down to here, bolts in through the floor into my roll cage. Same with up here, same thing. Comes down to the that reinforcement, ties into my cage, and then my cage actually bolts into the floor here. So it bolts into the floor there. Then behind the rear seats here it does too, down in here on this bar. One thing I would tell you guys, if you are building a cage, a lot of guys we race with don't do this. I think it's pretty unsafe. So my roll cage comes underneath and goes all the way across. My seats are tied into my roll cage, front and back. There's another bar that runs along the floor. To me, this is super critical. If this thing rolls over, the body collapses and your seat's tied to your body, these seat belts are doing nothing, but probably hurting you. If your seat belts, your seats are tied to your cage, this thing rolls, you're essentially inside a cocoon. and you won't get hurt. The body can collapse around the cage as much as it wants, but at least your seats won't go through the floor, or your roll cage won't go up around the seats. You can imagine what kind of damage that would cause. So I would suggest if you guys are going to be doing this, make sure you tie your seats to your roll cage. You know, there's not a whole lot of rules where I'm at with tough trucks. I do this just for my own safety, for my oldest son's safety. Like I said, this thing's rolled twice, and all I've ever had to do is just push out the roof a little bit and a little bit of the fenders. So if you're gonna do it, just make sure you tie your seats to your roll cage just to be safe, because it could be bad. Okay, so I want to show you guys this. So this is a piece that's going under the bottom of the frame. I kind of put this in my bead roll, or not my bead roll, my metal roll, and I just use my metal roll like a press. I'll kind of show you what my metal roll looks like. So that's my big giant metal roll. I bought it from a guy at work. Him and his dad made it. These are 4-inch solid rolls. So I just stuck that in there and just used this top die as a press and pressed it, because it's not enough material to actually roll it. So I got that, just kind of that little bit of bend. Then I put it in my vise. I don't know if you guys can see that, but I actually twisted this piece of metal to match the frame. The frame kind of lifts up on one side versus the other side. So it's rolled and twisted at the same time. What that's going to allow me to do is, so again, here's my side plate. This will be the bottom piece. I believe it goes this way. So this will essentially line up. Hold on, sorry. It will essentially line up right there. So it overlaps each end by about 3/4 of an inch. Just to make sure that my welds aren't all in the same spot, I overhung them. So this end and this end are about 3/4 of an inch longer. Then that'll weld into the frame right there. This will plate the hole. This will support the bottom of the frame. So that should give me just enough rigidity to keep that thing together. I'll probably more than likely weld this piece all the way out, just because it's filling that hole. It's becoming the unibody now. This one I'll probably I might weld it all the way around. We'll see what happens once I start welding. How tough it is. It's going to be tough to get in there. It's tight. Yeah. We'll see how it goes. But that's it. Yeah, I mean, that's the piece. I don't know if you guys, it's really hard to show you, but this piece is actually twisted from top to bottom. I twisted it this way, rolled it this way. So that's my piece right there. We'll get those tacked in, and I'll show you what it looks like tacked in. Okay, so I had to take the tire off, try to get some of this welded. This was a royal pain in the butt. Let's see if I can get you a view here. Hold on. Okay, so you can see I got the piece on the bottom. I did end up welding this thing all the way around. There's the side plate up in here. I got it mostly welded around. I grounded off just a little bit, just in case this frame or this upper link gets into it. Is just a touch wider. I'm pretty sure it'll still clear, but just in case, I ground that off, so maybe I'll have a better chance of sliding past there and not bending this anymore. But I did get it all the way welded around. I did a little bit of grinding. You can see the plate right here. You can almost see how it's twisted now. That frame, it's built that way. It's not actually like twisted, like bent. But I did form that piece of metal to match the unibody, so it's all in there, welded up. Just gotta throw some paint on it. I gotta go to the store and get some, so hopefully that'll hold this together for a little while longer, till maybe someday I can build something else. So